What should every first-time business owner know about money? Hi, welcome back to Fierce Feminine Finance and Money Monday. We are live today so I can share with you the 5 biggest mistakes around money that I'm seeing first-time business owners make. And these are some things that I wish I had known when I first started my business, my very first business when I was 18 years old. Back then, I was a brand new entrepreneur. I was financially taking care of my boyfriend at the time who kept losing every job I found for him. And I was taking care of my 6-month-old baby sister at the time. So I had a lot on my plate, a lot of financial stress. And I made some pretty big mistakes in my first year as a business owner, including not realizing I should be setting aside money for taxes and not knowing how to even file my taxes as a business owner. So we're going to cover a couple of different things today, and I'm going to share with you the 5 things that I think right now being a financial advisor who specializes in helping business women to retire young, the things I think very first time business owners should know about money. A lot of people share tips and resources on how to make money as a business owner, but we're going to look at this from a different angle today. What are some things you should know about money once you're already making some in your business? All right, without further ado, let's get started. Comment below if you have any questions that you want me to answer, and I'd love to hear what type of business you have so I can tailor my examples to fit you. All right, let's get started. So for those of you who don't know, I am a 6-figure money coach for business women. I'm also a licensed financial advisor in the state of Kansas and Missouri and Florida and a couple other places. And I turned my intellectual property into a $100,000 online brand where I earn passive income every single month. So that is my expertise. But today we're going to be diving into something more related to the financial advisor side than I usually do. Most of the time, my content is around passive income and investing. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit more about bulletproofing. How do we make your business and your finances completely bulletproof? So if you're on live with me today, comment live. Let me know you're here. Let me get my phone up because the software that I use doesn't always tell me who is here with me. So I like to see your smiling face on Facebook. Okay, let's get started. So again, as I said before, passive income is where I mostly talk about on this show. And I personally think that it is the best strategy for retirement for a business owner is to build a portfolio of cash flowing assets so we no longer have to trade time for money, right? And you guys have probably heard the story that I've told, but if you're brand new here, you don't know this story. The reason why I focus so heavily on helping business women to become independently wealthy and not have to rely solely on your business as a retirement plan is because of an experience I had when I first started coaching other business women. I had a veterinary client who she owned her own vet practice. She was a very successful business owner, but she didn't have a retirement plan. She didn't have savings. She didn't have life insurance. And about 8 months into working with me, she actually had a stroke. She was in her early 30s, guys. She ended up being diagnosed with brain cancer, and she passed away. And I had to watch the fallout. Her employees lost their job. Her clients lost their pets' primary care provider, right? Her family lost her income as well as her, right? And I had to watch the fallout of all of that. So that is why I think it's so important for us to focus on financial literacy and understanding certain things about finance. So if you are a business owner, you're a first-time business owner, and you're making money, but you aren't really sure what you're supposed to be doing with it now that you're making it, let's talk about the 5 things I think every first-time business owner needs to know about money. Let's get started. So the first thing, actually, before we get into it, I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. If you are on live right now with me, let me know that you can hear me. Hello, everybody. Hi, who's here with us today? Who do we have on live? Hello, hello, hello. Okay, let's start from the beginning. I want to make sure everybody can actually hear this. Hello, everyone. If you're coming on live for the first time, let me know you're here. Let me know where you're calling in from, what kind of business you have, so I can tailor my examples to fit you. All right, we're going to be talking about the 5 things that, as a financial advisor for businesswomen, I see first time business owners not knowing or mistakes that I see them making. 5 things I think you need to know about money if you're a first time business owner. So let's dive into the training for today, okay? The first thing I see a lot of brand new business owners, and even some business owners who've been at it for a while, but they've been mostly focused on the marketing aspect and the sales aspect, and they haven't really been focusing on building out their business systems, their financial systems in the business, is understanding that business budgeting is totally different than household budgeting. And this is a common mistake I see a lot of people make, is not really knowing how to create a really good business budget. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into this topic today, but just suffice to say that the primary difference between a business budget and your personal budget, like your household budget for your family, is that a household budget is based on this concept of consumption, right? We go to the grocery store and we don't look at things like toilet paper and peanut butter from the point of view of return on investment, right? We don't look at the toilet paper and go, oh, cost of toilet paper's up. I don't think I'm going to invest right now. Right? No, we look at items and expenses from the eyes of, well, I need to consume that thing, so I'm going to buy things to consume them. And that's how most people think about budgeting, is they make a long list of all the things that they know that their family needs to consume, and then they try to be reasonable about how they spend their money, right? What we do when we're creating a business budget is completely different, okay? To create a good business budget, there's actually some preliminary steps, 3 preliminary steps that need to be in place for us to do a business budget in the first place. The first thing you need to have in place is income planning. If you don't have marketing and sales nailed down, if you're not pulling in enough income, there's not really a whole lot of reason to create a business budget until you're making enough money, right? And so that's where we want to start looking at finding outside funding, getting, taking out a business loan, even things like finding another investor, asking for grants, like getting startup capital so that we don't need to worry about budgeting until we've hit our make break. We've actually started making enough income in the business. So that's the primary step. Before we really worry about business budgeting, we have to do income planning. And if you've been in business for a little while, income planning should still be being done every single week. Before you look at your business budget, you should first plan out how you're going to earn more income, right? Or enough income. Then you can do a business budget. Now, the second thing that we should be doing before we even start creating the business budget is actually doing a statistic analysis. And again, I don't have time today to dive really deep into how you do a statistic analysis, but suffice to say, we have to be looking at our numbers and making data-driven decisions about our business, right? If you're here on Facebook using majorly Facebook to drive traffic into your business, then how many likes you're getting, what's your engagement look like, what's your click-through rate, right? How many people are clicking on links that you share to your offers? So looking at those numbers, graphing those numbers and understanding how to do a good statistic analysis is a key part of your overall financial system. And if you aren't doing income planning and you aren't doing a statistic analysis, your business is unprofitable, and you just try to create a budget, it's not going to solve the problem, right? So when I have clients who are making 7 figures, right? High 6 or 7 figures, and they fly me out to their business because they're not profitable. And they go, Sarah, I need your, eyes on the ground, come out, help us figure out why we're not profitable. And those are the 3 things I do. Right? We do income planning. We look at where are we losing money, right? Where are we getting money? Where's the money that we are getting? Where's it coming from? Where have we gotten money in the past, right? Where have clients come from in the past that maybe we have allowed successful actions to fall out, right? Then we do a statistic analysis, and I find a lot of these businesses, if they're unprofitable, they aren't actually analyzing their numbers on a regular basis. And then having done those first 2 steps, now we can do a business budget. Right? Now, if you'd like to see a video of me behind the scenes actually creating a business budget for a 7-figure client, go ahead and comment. Let's do comment video below, and I'll make sure you get the link. Okay. I'll make sure you get the link to that behind the scenes video I recorded of how to do a business budget properly. But that's the first thing I'm finding is a lot of business women, they've been so focused, especially if you're a first-time business owner, they've been so focused on earning more money and nailing down their marketing, nailing down their sales strategy, that once they actually have money, they're like, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to budget it, right? And that's how you do a business budget properly. All right, number 2. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance, especially during a disaster. This is something I have as, I think, a pet peeve. I'm starting to notice I really have a pet peeve when it comes to business owners who, again, and I made this mistake early on, but after you start to earn money, just constantly reinvesting it back into the business and not putting proper protection in place to prevent future problems. Okay. So I'll give you some examples of this. Not having liability insurance. If you're a coach, consultant, pretty much any type of business whatsoever, a liability insurance policy can protect you from so many different scenarios. And I mean, you can find liability insurance for like $35 a month, right? For like $1 million policy. It's not the most expensive method to protect yourself, right? Another piece of your disaster preparedness plan that should be in place for your business, for your family, is an estate plan, right? A lot of people, when we're young, we don't think about the fact that you're at risk of, right? If something happened to you, a car hit you tomorrow, or, something bad, knock on wood, that won't happen. But if we don't plan for it, if it does happen and we didn't plan for it, it's a total disaster for your employees, for your family, for your clients, right? There are so many people who rely on you for their income that it's really kind of irresponsible for us to not have an estate plan. So that's another option, or another way that I see business women just, like I said, proper planning will actually prevent a lot of bad scenarios from ever happening to you or your family or your business, right? So this is one of the things I wanted to mention to you guys today, because I actually have a strategy that I walk through with my clients. It's called the Financially Bulletproof Plan. And what we do is we identify, first of all, what are the risks that you're currently taking, right? A good disaster plan will cover like what to do in the most common scenarios. So what are the most common scenarios? In the financial world, when we talk about a risk, we're talking about a situation that involves exposure to danger. So what are some of the dangers that you're currently exposed to? Like I said, unexpected death of the business owner. I had a client the other day who she's an artist, and she gets up on a scaffolding every single day to paint murals, right? It's like, okay, well, what if she fell? Right? Like, she's a single mom, she doesn't have a reserve, right? There's like so many pieces of that financial plan that are missing. Whereas if we just put certain pieces in place, like for example, disability insurance, right? If we just put that one piece of of her financial plan in place, she would never have to worry about that. Right. So there are two parts to your disaster plan, two parts to being when we're creating a plan to make sure you're financially bulletproof. There's the logistical preparedness, which is things like, if to prevent a fire from being so financially devastating, we would make sure there's a fire extinguisher in your home, right? Like, so there's logistical things we want to put in place, like fire extinguisher. If you have a tornadoes like we do here in Kansas, then making sure you have like a tornado shelter, logistical things. But then there's also the financial preparedness. How much do we have in an emergency fund? Do we have insurance in place? If you're a business owner, are you operating under the protection of the right type of entity, like an LLC or a corporation, right? Put a 2 in the chat if you want access to my free PDF guide on how to actually bulletproof your family. In fact, I think I have a copy of it right here. I do. Look at this. This is an absolutely free guide that I give away to my clients, and it goes over every single step that needs to be in place. Like, what are the most common natural disasters in your town? What are some of the man-made emergencies that could occur, like pandemics or, cyber attack on your business? And then it literally walks you through the tools that you have to protect your family and lower your financial risk. It walks you through every single step that you need to take in order to actually financially bulletproof your business and financially bulletproof your family as well. Like I said, making sure we have things like tax optimization, right? Discretionary income, knowing how much of your budget is discretionary. So if you need some wiggle room, you know what that number is. Like, every single one of these things. And then if something does happen to you, where is your will? Do you have a trust? If so, where are the documents? Does your partner or does the person who might take care of your kids if something happened to you, do those people actually know where to find these things, right? So this is my Financially Bulletproof Your Family Guide, and it's absolutely free. You can download it from my website. Comment a 1 in the chat if you want me to send you the link to that, okay? But that's number 2, is just not knowing that there are solutions out there that are, most of them are fairly low cost solutions to protect and financially bulletproof your family. Okay. All right. Number 3, the third thing that I think every first time business owner needs to know about money is that debt is only bad if the annual interest exceeds your returns. I want you to think about this for a second. What if I gave you $100 and you went and turned it into $300, and all I wanted in return for lending you $100 was for you to give me $5? So I lend you $100, you go and turn it into $300, and then you come back, you give me $5. Did I win? Yes, I got my $5 in interest. Did you win? Yes, you made $295 extra dollars after paying me back plus interest, right? Everybody won in that scenario, right? But most people don't know how to calculate the compounding interest. And so they're afraid of debt. And they listen to people like DR, and a couple other people out there who are saying that like debt is bad, you should live a completely debt-free life. And you know what? If you are independently wealthy, then yes, it makes sense to also be debt-free if possible and to pay off your debt, right? But if you're not independently wealthy already, a lot of ways it just doesn't make sense to focus so heavily on getting out of debt that we forget to invest in strategies that will actually make us financially free, okay? So this is a big mistake I see a lot of newer business owners making, is that they are focusing too heavily on getting out of debt and not focusing enough of their time and energy and investment into making that money make more money for them. Okay. All right. Number 4, a lady never leaves her shield behind when she rides into battle. P.S. Legal is your shield. So again, number 4, this is the 4th biggest thing I think every business owner, first time business owner, needs to know about money, is that it doesn't make sense to go into business thinking to yourself, well, I'll form an LLC later once I start making money, or I'll start, I'll update the privacy policy on my website later after I'm starting to make some money. Like, there's so many things I hear from my clients that say, like, well, once I'm making money, then I'll protect myself and protect my family. This is where, again, making sure you have enough startup capital before you launch that business, before you launch that passive income stream, so you can do it right from the beginning. Because if you purchase a property today in your own name, not under an LLC, right? And you start Airbnb-ing it tomorrow, and the very first guest you have, trips and falls and bonks in their head. And you were thinking to yourself, well, I'm going to form an LLC down the road after I get my first few bookings, or I'm going to, put liability insurance in place later after I've had my first few bookings. And that first booking is the one where someone falls and bonks their head and decides to sue you. They take everything. They take your house, your car, they take everything on your savings account if they win that lawsuit, right? Whereas if you had just put the proper protection in place before, right? So that's why I said, I know this is a silly way to say it, but it's true. A lady never leaves her shield behind when she rides into battle, right? You wouldn't go into battle thinking, well, once I get there, I'll pick up a shield from one of the dead enemies. Like, no, in order to actually have an enemy that you can steal a shield from, first you have to live through the first 10 minutes of the engagement, right? And it's that same at-risk approach that we take when we leave our legal aspect in the dust behind us, okay? All right, number 5, the 5th most common thing that I see business owners, first-time business owners, do not know, right? This is probably one of the things I get most surprised by is most business women don't seem to understand that retirement works differently for business owners than it does for entrepreneurs. And so if you're still thinking like, oh, well, I need a solo 401k and that's my only way I'm ever going to retire, then you're missing like kind of a whole strategy of 5 different ways that you could use your business as your retirement plan. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about retirement for a second and how it all works, right? The regular retirement strategy that most Americans get spoon-fed every single day is that you save and save and save, and hopefully you save in a way that's compounding interest, right? We're going to invest that money. We save it in a 401k or we save it in an IRA, and then when it's in that account, we then invest it into things like stocks and bonds and mutual funds, etc., right? And here's what we're trying to do. Let's say you start with $0, right? And let's say when you start out, your first time you ever invest, you're like 25 years old. So you've got 40 years until retirement age, right? If you invested in something that's going to have an average return of 8% per year, and you saved $750 per month, right, and invested it in something that got 8%, you would have about $2.4 million by the time you hit retirement age. So that's a pretty good number, because typically what we want is to be able to retire with enough saved up that you can live off of 4% of that for the rest of your life. So 4% would give you about $100,000 per year in annual income. Okay, so that's a pretty typical retirement plan for most 9-to-5ers, right? This is what most Americans are trying to do, is they're trying to save enough money every single month that they can put $2.5 million in the account by age 65, okay? Now, I want you to do this just so we can really look at it yourself, right? I want you to go to calculator.net/investment-calculator and work out how much per month you would need to save in order to have 2.5 million by retirement age. So put in the starting amount, when you go to the calculator, you'll see this. In the starting amount, put however much you have saved right now. Okay, how much is in your 401k, or if you don't have a 401k, then just put 0, right? And then how old are you? How many years do you have before retirement? So for me, If I wanted to retire by age 65, I've got, 30 years left, right? So I would change this to a 30 if it were me. Keep this at 8% because that's about the average right now in the stock market over the last 50 years. Keep this at annually. We want to have compounding interest, right? And then I want you to put right here how much you could currently afford to contribute to your 401k or your IRA every single month, right? How much in extra cash do you have every month that you could invest? And then hit that calculate button. Let's just see. When I did this exercise, I was 30 years old. Okay, that was 5 years ago. The first time I ever did this exercise, I was 5 years ago, I was 30 years old. And I realized when I did this exercise that it was physically impossible for me to save enough money to actually retire by age 65, which a lot of Americans are having that same realization. Over 78% of Americans are saying that they're behind on retirement right now. So that like blew my mind. And honestly, for a couple of months after that, I was like a little bit apathetic about it. I was just like, well, it's impossible. It's just not in the cards. I'm going to have to work really hard. Like I didn't really have a solution in the beginning. And luckily for me, I ended up attending a workshop where Eric Miller was speaking. Eric Miller, if you don't know him, he's the founder of Econologics. They are an investment advisory firm who specialize in helping doctors who own their own practice. So they're doctors, but they're business owners, right? And Econologics specializes in helping doctors become financially free. And I had never heard of financial freedom up until that point. I didn't even know this term existed. So I'll define it for you in case, like me, you are ignorant of what this means. It means your monthly passive income exceeds your basic expenses. So you're independently wealthy at that point. You no longer have to trade time for money. And I found this to be a fascinating idea when I heard about it the first time. I was like, wow, I really want to accomplish that. So how do you accomplish financial freedom became this obsession I had. Like I wanted to learn everything I knew I could on this topic. And the first thing I learned from Eric Miller was that the first step of any journey is to understand your destination, right? Like where are we trying to get to? So in order to get to financial freedom, you have to know your freedom number. And your freedom number is actually very easy. You could calculate this right now. What does your ideal day look like? Okay. If you became independently wealthy tomorrow and you no longer had to work, would you continue working? Some of us love what we do. We would just continue working. We just maybe wouldn't work as many hours, or we would work more, right? Like who knows, right? But what does that ideal day look like for you? How many hours are you working? What are you doing with your time? How often are you working, right? And then once you've got that kind of mapped out for yourself of what your ideal dreamy day looks like, all you have to do is just jump on Google and start costing that out. Like if your ideal day, if your ideal lifestyle has you traveling 6 times a month, okay, well, how much are flights? How much is the hotel going to cost? What are you going to be spending in food if you're traveling that often? Right? So just costing out what is your ideal lifestyle actually going to cost, and that right there is your freedom number. Now usually when we talk about freedom number, we're talking about a specific dollar amount per month, and that gives us a really good starting point for figuring out what investments and what assets we will need in order to become financially free. Okay, now all of this ties in as a business owner because your business can be a part of your retirement plan. Okay. There are actually 5 ways that a business owner can retire. 3 of them involve selling the business. All right. And another one is to make the business so boring that by bringing on a team and hiring a CEO to manage the team and automating your processes, making that business so boring that you no longer have to work in it. And right. The last one is currently my favorite and the one I'm using the most right now to become financially free. So let's go through all of them for a minute, okay? Here are the 5 ways that your business can help you retire young and earn passive income. The first one, like I said, is to sell your business. And in this case, we're going to be selling the business to a partner. So let's say you're a boomer, right? You are either at retirement age or nearing retirement age, and you've owned a business for the last like 30 years, 40 years, right? That business is successful, it's doing well, it's, earning a lot more than it spends, and you're getting to the point where you would like to pass this business on. You're like, I don't really want to do it anymore. I want to, my dreamy day looks very different than what I'm doing today. I'd like to sell my business. Well, find a partner. Find someone who's young, hungry, right? Ambitious, wants to own the business, has maybe some decent credit, and is a fairly responsible person. Bring them on as a partner in your business. And over the next 3 to 5 years, right? Or 2 to 3 years, depending on how close you are to retirement age, train them up so that they can wear every hat you wear in the business as well as you do it, right? That's the trick to this strategy, is you have to have certain leadership skills to accomplish this strategy. Because if you don't know how to teach someone else to be as good of a business owner as you are, you're going to struggle to do this one. Okay. But that is one option. And once they've bought you out, right, then I'll show you in a minute how we actually turn that into financial freedom. What do we do with that money to make sure we don't run out of money in a couple of years, right? The other option is, if you don't really feel like bringing on a partner and training them and documenting your processes, like that's a lot of work, right? Maybe you just want to find a private buyer. If you're a doctor or a lawyer or someone who is highly regulated, like a financial advisor, right? Find someone fresh out of school who has a degree, has the licensing that they need to do what you do, but doesn't have the experience, and just say, hey, I already have an existing business. It's turnkey. I'll sell it to you. Great. That's another option, right? You also have a similar version of this where we obtain a buyout or merger with a corporate entity. So let's say you have a jewelry business. All right. Contact a jewelry chain like Zane's, right? And go, hey, I have a successful jewelry business. Would you like to buy my business? And they'll just take it over and rebrand it usually, right? But they'll buy you out. It's a great strategy, right? These three happen every single day in the US. There's about 10,000 boomers who are retiring every single day in the United States. And probably about 1 to 2% of them, I'm guessing, I don't know the actual number, but I would say probably about 1 or 2% of them are business owners. They're selling that business, right? The fourth strategy, like I said, is to make your business so boring by just hiring a team and automating it that you don't have to work in it anymore. You just own it. And then the fifth one's the one I talk about all the time. So we're not going to talk about 4 and 5 today. We're going to just talk about 1, 2, and 3. So here's the thing, though. If your strategy is to sell your business as part of your retirement plan, if you're trying to become independently wealthy and you want to sell that business down the road when you're ready to retire, the biggest mistake I see business women make in the beginning is to underestimate or really overestimate how much money they'll make when they sell their business, right? Selling your business sounds really great until you realize that most businesses sell for between 1 and 10 times EBITDA. That's a problem. Okay. Now, some of you may not be familiar with, corporate entities and selling businesses. So let's define EBITDA for a minute. EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. It's really, at the end of the day, it's a measure of profitability, right? So what's the cash profit generated by your company's operations? So I know you probably may not know what EBITDA is for your business. So I want to ask you this in a different way. What was your net profit in 2023? What was your take-home income in 2023 from your business? Okay. Let's say you're a 7-figure business. Your business is earning $1 million in revenue, right? From whatever cash that you're generating. Well, how much of that was profit? So if you're a typical 7-figure business, not an online business, but something like a plumber or an HVAC company or a doctor's office, something that's a brick and mortar business, even if you're making $1 million in revenue, your take home is probably something closer to what, $60,000, $100,000. So if you sell that business, you're typically going to make between 1 and 10 times that net profit by selling it. But you made that last year just by owning it. So if we sell it and you're no longer going to have it anymore. So as you can see, like that's not enough money typically to retire. Now, you could do 10 times that, right? Some people are able to sell their business for up to 10 times EBITDA, which is great if you can do it, but that's less common. So the question you have to ask yourself, if your business is currently your retirement plan and you don't have any other investments, you don't have any other retirement plan, the question you have to ask yourself is, could you live off of 1 time or let's say 5 times EBITDA for the rest of your life? Right? If you're, wanting to retire young at let's say 45 or 55, you probably have another 40 years of life ahead of you, right? So could you live off of the sale of your business for the rest of your life? If the answer is no, there are a few things you can do to change that. The first one is maximize the resale value, right? Increase the net profit of your business. I can certainly help you to do that. The easiest way to do that is to document your systems and processes, because documentation not only makes it possible for someone else to take over a little bit easier, which maximizes the resale value, but it also, by documenting your successful actions, you often are able to improve those successful actions and therefore increase the value of the business, right? Another thing you can do is focus on building repeatable revenue. So, you see a lot of people launching memberships or subscription boxes or any kind of subscription for the business. Focusing on building systems for promoting to existing clientele and getting them to consistently come back is a great way to maximize the retail value of your business as well, right? Because now we can sell the business for more because it looks very attractive to investors and potential buyers, right? So let's say that you have prepped your business to sell and you have crunched the numbers and you go, yeah, if I can sell my business for about 4 times EBITDA, I could retire. Okay, well, now how do we do that? Right? How do we actually prepare the business for sale? And what do we do with the money once we've sold? So there's 2 parts to this, right? So the first one is making sure your business is sale ready. Okay. I would start by getting a third-party valuation. I have here in Kansas City a business broker I know who will do this for free for my clients. She'll just come in and as a third party, she will evaluate your business. In other words, she'll tell you how much you can probably sell your business for. That's a really good thing to do every couple of years. Just get a third-party valuation so you understand what the value is of your current business, and you can think with that data as you're planning your retirement strategy, right? Also, like I said, automating as many processes as possible, making sure that any employees you have are not planning to retire at the same time you are, because that could be a problem if you're trying to sell, right? So let's say we prepped the business, gotten its financials in place, we've automated processes, we've solidified the team, we've gotten a third-party valuation, we know how much it's going to sell for, and we have recognized that it is going to sell for enough money for you to retire, okay? Now you have 2 ways that the sale of this business could become in itself your retirement plan, okay? There are 2 main ways that we can finance the sale of your business. The first one is in a lump sum, right? We tell the buyer, well, go to the bank or go to the SBA, and get a loan and buy me out. Or maybe they've got cash, right? If they're a super wealthy investor, maybe they've got $1 million or $2 million or whatever lying around in cash somewhere and they're going to pay you cash, right? That is a possibility. The other possibility is that we can offer what's called seller financing or owner financing. Okay. So let's take both of these scenarios. The first scenario is lump sum. So you decide you're going to sell your business and the asking price is 1.5 million, and you find an investor who has been able to get a loan for 1.5 million, and he's going to give you that 1.5. So you get $1.5 million and you no longer have a business. What do? The wrong thing to do would be to just put that in a savings account and try to live off of it for the rest of your life, right? No, don't do that. What we want to do is find a way to get that money to keep pace with inflation. And sure, we could live off 4% of it, right? Or we could also make it grow by investing it. But what we don't want to do is invest it in highly risky places like stock market with no guaranteed returns, right? Things like that, where we go, okay, we're really risking that money. One option, if you are a boomer or you're Gen X, you're a little bit on the higher end, you're at least in your 50s, let's just put it that way, right? One option for you is if you do sell that business, you can plop that money right into an annuity. An annuity will give you guaranteed income for life. So that's a really good option if you're of a certain age and you're ready to retire. Even if you're retiring young, if you have $1.5 million that just plopped into your lap from selling your business and you're used to having a certain income level and you want to retain that income level, an annuity can be a really good option. And comment annuity below if you'd like to learn more about how that works. Okay. The second option, like I said, is seller owner financing. So if you want to turn this business into a passive income stream, one of the easiest, simplest ways to do that is to sell it to someone who has really good business savvy. This is not a strategy we want to use if you're selling this to someone who's never run a business before, okay? Because there's some risk in doing this, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But owner financing basically means, you're going to sell your business to a guy and he says, hey, look, I can't get the money from the bank, or, I don't have the money to buy you out in cash. And you go, okay, I'll personally loan you the money to buy my business. So how does that work? Well, what happens is you basically give him the business, right? There's usually a transition period. So you're going to train them up or, help them take over the business. And then you go off and relax. You go off and retire. And every single month, that guy is going to pay you, right, income, because you still own the business and he's in the process of buying you out of it. Does that make sense? Comment a 2 below if that makes sense to you guys. So that's the advantage to selling the business as a retirement plan and using seller financing or owner financing, is that you retain ownership of the business, but he's the one or she's the one who's running it for you. They take over and they just slowly buy you out over time, which gives you monthly income, right, in retirement. So that can be a really great way to sell the business, but also have passive income from the business until they've fully paid it off. So if you're, in your 50s, you could say, all right, I'll give you a 30-year term on this. That means you're going to have monthly passive income for the next 30 years, right? Until you're in your 80s, which is great. So that's one option. Okay. Now, we've talked about selling your business. We've talked about, different strategies for doing so. Let's talk about who you want to have on your team if this is your retirement plan. So during the process of selling your business and figuring out what to do with the money afterwards, here are the people that I would recommend you start building a relationship with now, because the last thing you want, right, is to have never met your attorney until the day you retire, right? Last thing you want is have never met your financial advisor until the day you try to retire, because you have to be able to trust these people and you have to be able to know that they're going to do right by you. So building that relationship with these professionals ahead of time, like ideally 10 years ahead of time, take them out to golf, take them out to coffee, right? I go out to coffee with gals all the time who are like interested in hiring me, because I know that finance is a very trust-based industry, right? I want you to know me, like me, and trust me, so that you know when a time is right and you're ready to sell your business, or you're ready to actually, become financially independent and start investing or whatever, that I will steer you the way that you would want me to. Okay. So here's the people that you'll want to have a relationship with if this is your retirement strategy. Number one, a business broker. The business broker's sole job is to help you find a buyer and get maximum value for your business. Okay. Second thing, of course, a financial advisor. Hello. Specifically, you want someone who has specialized in business economics, right? Most, Edward Jones or financial advisors that you find on, there are 100,000 of them all over the US. most of them focus their efforts on helping 9-to-5ers retire, which is, as I'm showing you today, is a totally different model, right? So you want to find someone who you like, who you can get along with, who you trust, but most importantly, someone who knows how to do what you're trying to accomplish and understands how business finance is different than the personal finance of a 9-to-5er, right? Or a corporate girly. The next thing you'll want, the next person you'll want on your team is a lawyer, an attorney, specifically a business attorney, to look over all the final purchase paperwork when you sell that business, to make sure the contract for the sale makes sense and there's no weird loopholes, right? And lastly, you'll want a CPA, because there are capital gains can bite you, right? There are tax implications to selling your business that you'll want to be aware of, and you'll want to have someone on your team who knows what they're doing and can support you throughout that process, okay? So going from being a hustler in your business, someone who's worked 40, 50, 60 hours a week, to becoming more of an investor, someone who thinks about retirement, someone who is pushing towards being financially independent before age 65. That takes a viewpoint shift. It takes different spending habits. It takes finding the funding, right? It takes proper risk protection and legal protection of your assets. It takes an understanding, as we've been talking about today, of the different ways, the different types of assets that can actually help you accomplish that. So if you're interested in working with me to help you actually become financially free and put these different systems and processes in place inside your business and inside your financial strategy so you can become financially bulletproof, comment below. I'm happy to schedule a one-on-one with you. Or, like I said, if it seems like a really good fit, you might want to just come inside the Passive Income Pathway coaching program, where I can help you every step of the way to accomplish these things. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming on live. It's great to see you all on here, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. All right. Have a great week.